First of all, we've had some discussion of Roe versus Wade. You have declined to give an opinion on a matter that might be pending before the court. That is, of course, the same answer that every single sitting justice has given when he or she was sitting in the same chair you are. It is mandated by the judicial canons of ethics. Whether one is a nominee of a Democratic president or a Republican president, that has been the answer that has been given to this committee for decades. But I do think it is interesting that our Democratic colleagues, number one, don't discuss what would actually happen if there came a day in which Roe versus Wade were overruled, which is namely that it would not suddenly become the case that abortion was illegal, but rather it would revert to the status of the law as it's been for nearly 200 years of our nation's history, which is that the question of the permissibility of abortion is a question for elected legislatures at the state levels and at the federal level. And it is difficult to dispute that there are a great many jurisdictions, including jurisdictions like California and New York, who, even if Roe versus Wade were no longer the law of the land, their elected legislatures would almost certainly continue unrestricted access to abortion with virtually no limitations. What I find interesting, though, is that our Democratic colleagues do not discuss what is really the radical position of the most liberal justices on the Supreme Court, which is that no restrictions whatsoever are permissible when it comes to abortion. Yesterday, one of the Democratic senators made reference to the case Gonzalez versus Carhart. I'm quite familiar with that case, and I represented Texas and a number of other states as amici in that case. That case concerned the constitutionality of the federal ban on partial birth abortion. That was legislation that passed Congress, was signed into law, that made the really gruesome practice of partial birth abortion illegal. Overwhelming majority of Americans believe partial birth abortion should be prohibited, even those who identify as pro-choice. A significant percentage of Americans don't want to see that gruesome practice allowed. Supreme Court, by a vote of 5-4 in Carhart versus Gonzalez, upheld the federal ban on partial birth abortion. That means there were 4 justices ready to strike it down, ready to conclude that you can't ban partial birth abortion, that you can't ban late-term abortion. And by the way, other restrictions that are at question include parental consent laws, parental notification laws. None of our Democratic colleagues want to talk about the justices they want to see on the court would strike down every single reasonable restriction on unlimited abortion on demand that the vast majority of Americans support.